Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to explore what Ian Hacking calls dynamic nominalism. Speaking from personal experience, it can be a bit confusing at times, but I'll do my best and hopefully everybody will have a solid grasp of this idea by the end of the video. I'll start with a pretty intuitive explanation of the concept and then spend the rest of the video analyzing an example of how it works in the real world. So without further ado, let's get to it. This might seem a bit random, but let's talk about snakes for a second. I am deathly afraid of snakes. I hate the hissing noises they make, the way they move, the way they look, basically everything about them. If it was up to me, all snakes would be rounded up and contained in special facilities where I would never have to see them again. But here's the thing, snakes could not care less about the way I think about them. They don't feel bad about scaring me, and they definitely do not feel insecure just because I think they look grotesque. In fact, nothing about their behavior directly depends on the way that we categorize and think about them. Pretty much every single object or thing in the universe is completely unbothered by the way humans classify them, with one special exception: humans themselves. From an ontological perspective, what makes us so unique is that we react to being labeled. Elizabeth Anscombe articulated something similar to this in her theory about our actions. According to her, intentional human action must come under a description. Without a description, intentional human action of a certain kind is not possible. So when a new description is created, the possibilities of human action are necessarily expanded because certain actions which were impossible before are now possible. This creation of a description, and by extension new possibilities for personhood, is what Hacking is referring to when he says, a kind of person came into being at the same time as the kind itself was being invented. The term he assigns this phenomenon is making up people. That humans react to being labeled is the basis of another critical aspect of dynamic nominalism, the looping effect. Hacking did not name his theory static nominalism for a reason. It does not simply end with the creation of a new category. Our investigations into and conceptualizations of such categories result in changes to individuals who belong to the category, which is why Hacking refers to them as a moving target. This in turn changes our conceptualizations of them and our investigations, which then changes the members of the category once again, and this results in a sort of infinite feedback loop. That was a lot of technical language, and if you don't get it right now, that's okay. I believe that the best way to learn about a concept is to see its applications. Full disclosure, my example is not nearly as well researched as autism or multiple personality disorder, which professional researchers spent years analyzing through the lens of dynamic nominalism. But I think my explanations of teen pregnancies will be sufficiently thorough to get a good sense of how Hacking's theory operates in the real world. Pregnant women between the ages of 13 and 20 have existed since the first humans, but the term teenage pregnancy only appeared in the 60s. Before that, such pregnancies were simply referred to as illegitimate, which implies that these situations were a result of a moral failing on the part of the young mother. The publication of the influential monograph, 11 Million Teenagers, What Can Be Done About the Epidemic of Adolescent Pregnancies, brought the term teenage pregnancy to prominence. By describing such pregnancies as an epidemic, I would argue that this can be described as the making up of pregnant teens as individuals suffering from a sickness of sorts. According to scientists, this sickness was the interruption of the normal psychological and physical progression of adolescence. Shifting from a moral perspective to a medical one changed the way that researchers thought about the pregnant teen. The category of pregnant teens as an epidemic and the pregnant teen as a victim of a sickness emerged hand in hand, just as Hacking expected. It also changed the way that pregnant teens think about themselves. Perception of the social issue as an epidemic led to efforts to prevent teens from becoming pregnant in the first place, but also to help teenage mothers become self-sufficient. One example of this is Toronto's Massey Center program, an experimental long-term program that provided housing and education for teenage mothers in Toronto, some of whom were as young as 14. This is just one of thousands of such programs, all of which change the way that pregnant teens think about themselves and the way they interact with others. The creation of the category of pregnant teens allowed some of them to break free from somewhat justified stereotypes. This in turn forced researchers to change the way they think about pregnant teens as they now exhibit new behaviors. This completes the loop that Hacking speaks of. Just to sort of wrap everything up, the term dynamic nominalism refers to the creation of a kind of person that did not exist before, as the person and the kind emerge hand in hand. Humans are not like animals or inanimate objects. We react to the labels that are given to us. So the creation of a new kind of person changes the behavior of the people of that kind, which changes how we think of the kind itself, and so on. This is the looping effect which we can observe in the case of teenage pregnancies. That's about it, and thanks for watching, guys.